I believe you can learn a lot about a person by how they approach gameplay. We all have our little habits, and we often make small, heat-of-the-moment choices, both consciously and maybe even out of habit. Do you hoard items, hoping you'll need them later for some purpose you can't predict? Do you stop and talk to absolutely every NPC you meet, hoping to learn as much about the world as possible? Are your eyes constantly on the objective ahead of you? Or do you often find yourself backtracking to ensure you found everything you can? Of course, I'd even add that even the way we treat NPCs can say a lot about the player. FREERIDE, the newest game from Flightyfelon Games, takes this very notion and runs with it. Self-describing as an oddball RPG, FREERIDE also doubles as a personality test. Every little decision you make, every conscious and unconscious choice is taken into account, and once you've finished your playthrough, the game gives you a rundown of your personality type. The concept drew me in immediately, and I was excited to see whether it could live up to my expectations. Well, I'm happy to report that FREERIDE proceeded to take me on a journey with plenty of highs, though not without encountering a few lows along the track. FREERIDE begins on a lonely station platform where Proto, the player character, waits for the Fate Train 001. The train arrives in time and the conductor, Princess Lepida, invites Proto on an adventure to the spirit world, which is an afterlife that occasionally overlaps with the human world. In the spirit world, spirits live much like we do, each of them awaiting the day they can take care of their unfinished business. Proto actually eventually stumbles into the role of conductor and must contend with learning more about the new life while also uncovering the mysteries of the spirit world and its inhabitants. From the get-go, I was taken by the characters. There are many of them here, and each of them with charming, quirky personalities. They're not particularly deep or multi-layered, but I got pretty attached to the characters like Albion, a wise old bird with a Shakespearean vocabulary. The game shows a good sense of simple yet effective character writing, making each of the smallest interactions pretty memorable. There were even a few characters I initially disliked, but ended up really rooting for them in the end. It was pretty satisfying to uncover their unfinished business and help them achieve their dreams. I believe where FREERIDE comes apart a little is in its overarching plot. Supposedly this game is about the player, but it never really feels like it. Most of the time while you're involved in the proceedings, the narrative never feels personal. Proto is mostly a blank slate, meant to aid the idea of being a personality test, but the story actually feels more about the spirit world and its many inhabitants than about you or the test that you're supposedly taking. Don't get me wrong though, you definitely have an important role to play here, but the sense of this being a personal journey feels underplayed. This all ties into how I feel about the personality test itself, but we'll circle back to that later. As a whole, the core narrative of FREERIDE is driven by its lovable, rootable cast, yet it doesn't really come together strong enough for me to call it a true success. The pacing is brisk, which is a plus in some respects, but as a result, it doesn't actually feel as though we spend enough time for everything to be properly digested. Still, the strength of its characters is evident. By the end of the time with FREERIDE, it emotionally resonated with me. I felt genuinely sad that my time in the spirit world had ended. Despite the journey's inconsistencies, it's an adventure I won't forget anytime soon. But what about that promised personality test? Okay, I'm of two minds about it. FREERIDE tracks your every in-game action, from big choices to smallest details, and uses that information to generate a result at the end of each playthrough. For example, if you spend much of your playthrough exploring rather than pursuing objectives, you'll be labeled as curious. Gifting items, throwing items, hoarding items, eating items, whether they're actually food or not, all of this and more factors into your results. Although from a player perspective, you're expected not to overthink what you're doing and instead just play naturally. When I received my first results, I immediately disagreed with it. Perhaps that's natural. It seems like the developer anticipated this. On the Steam page, it actually mentions that if you don't like your results, you can always retake take the test called "You Are Who You Choose to Be," but this aspect weakens the idea that the game offers a definitive personality test. I didn't expect FREERIDE to give me life-changing insights, but I hoped it would shine more brightly in its execution. At the same time, I'm almost certain this was intentional. Rather than being a true personality test, FREERIDE can be seen as a game about the concept of personality tests. It's largely about choice and how those choices don't always define who we are. Personality tests are fun to take. We all enjoy them from time to time, I know I do, and oftentimes whether or not we agree with the results. Taking them too seriously misses the point. You aren't defined by a quiz designed by a stranger, I can assure you that. Many characters in FREERIDE echo this idea as well, pining over past choices or seeking to change their fate. They believe that their past defines them instead of moving forward. If this was an intentional writing choice, then it mostly succeeds. The personality test is a fun cherry on top of the adventure. As the well-worn phrase goes, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination, which fits perfectly here. It's fun to see how the game views your habits. I do wish there was a system to view past test results to track how your tendencies change across playthroughs. Regardless, I still remain a bit split about how FREERIDE uses its core concepts, but I can't deny its intrigue. So far, my thoughts on FREERIDE have been a little mixed. But when it comes to visuals and music, FREERIDE is an absolute delight. As technicolor as they come, the spirit world is visually gorgeous, whimsical, and as endearing as its many inhabitants. Each character design is memorable in its own right. The whole game oozes creativity, which plays a huge part in its appeal. The music is just as grand, where several tracks are now lodged in my brain in the best way possible. Bright, poppy, and catchy. FREERIDE is a delight to listen to. In terms of its runtime, FREERIDE is on the shorter side. One playthrough lasts 3 to 4 hours, however the game actively encourages players to replay, so at least you can see everything it offers. Reaching the end goal took me about 8 hours, but you can spend much longer searching for all the ways to end each act and uncover the many secrets this game has. And then on top of that, even if you discover everything, FREERIDE might be the kind of game that you pull out occasionally just to see how your personality shifts over time. Through my playthrough, I did encounter a few glitches that were kind of soft-locking me in certain rooms. These were solved with the reset, but they happened a few too many times. I hope these issues are fixed. In the meantime, remember to save often. I also found the throwing mechanic a bit fiddly, especially during sections where you must throw items to damage enemies. These moments aren't common, but they can be frustrating nonetheless. FREERIDE is an intriguing game. While it isn't entirely successful in everything it sets out to do, once it hits its stride, it really gets going. The narrative doesn't always land, but it is emotionally resonant and had me hooked by the end, even despite my misgivings. It's a pure, fun, entertaining ride, and sometimes that's all a story needs to be. The personality test might not reveal everything earth-shattering about you, but it doesn't need to, as long as you enjoy getting there. FREERIDE is a charming, laid-back, lovable adventure, one that I wish has been just a little better, but I'm very happy to have experienced it. Noisy Pixel is giving FREERIDE a 7.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth and subscribe to keep up with all our featured content.
Noisy Pixel.